Good morning. It's Monday morning. It's Judge's Jules. Here's the judge, and there's Si HH. Hello, mate. How you doing? Good weekend?
Yeah, very good, mate. Yeah, here we are. Start the week. A gloomy day outside, but a few horses to follow will brighten everyone's morning.
Absolutely. Some interesting racing over the weekend as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, two good meetings on Saturday. I thought Ascot was good. Bit small fields, but that's the way it is. And Haydock was very interesting. On ground, it wasn't as soft as we were sort of led to believe. In fact, the time suggests it wasn't soft at all. It was good to soft.
Yeah, that's typical Haydock for you. It's so hard to weigh up in it there. Such a funny track, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah, hilarious. I think there's a few things to talk about. I mean, the Shishkin non-show. We've got the Gold Cup form being let down right, left and centre. Any thoughts on those things?
The HFC column this morning, the old Prost tutorial, he's talked about I can't remember the actual phrase he uses, but I have read it. Hard race syndrome, and what he talks about is Cheltenham Gold Cup winners and horses that run well. How often that's the last you see of them, or they never reach those marks again.
That's right.
And if you read it, folks, there's a suggestion of how to get around that without doing your Norton's coin in, because we had two Gold Cup horses in the Betfair Chase. Brave Man's Game for the second time this year gets beat and didn't seem to want to know late on. And Protectorate, who looks a horse that's gone completely mad. So they both underperformed.
And then Galopin de Champ got well beat yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So there is something in that. Whether it just rips the guts out of them, I don't know. But Brave Man's Game looked a real tool last year.
Yeah.
And the excuse was made at Weatherby, he needed it first time out. You watch him next time. Well, we saw him next time. Royal Pagal's a good horse, don't get me wrong.
No,
it ain't a Gold Cup winner, is it?
No, he's not really. He's
top class.
I'm pleased he's had his day in the sun, but he's one of them. I reckon he's a good Group 2 horse, Grade 2 horse, but not really a Grade 1 horse.
But if Brave Man's Game's going to be winning Gold Cups and the like, he's got to be knocking him out of the way, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has really. Yeah. And he did actually thrash him really in the King George last year as well, didn't he? And in the Gold Cup. So he definitely has underperformed. There's no doubt about that. But just shows you what a good training performance was to get Best Mate to win 3, then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and how good.
That it's
also start to keep coming back.
Yeah, to keep coming back from a race like that.
Yeah.
So that was a good performance, and I'm just like the cheek pieces on first time for Shishkin was a bit of a worry, wasn't it? And dear oh dear, people don't.
Well, if you got my lucky 15, we were on the old Pick Dory, so I wouldn't cry.
That was a lovely start then.
Hey, and I think he would have beaten him anyway, but we'll never know now.
No, and let's be honest, the Paul Nicholls horses were running well, weren't they, at the weekend? So
yeah, the problem is now with Shishkin, if they run him again and he were to fall, it's dreadful PR, isn't it, for a stable to start? And people would say he told you he didn't want to race anymore. Or did he get there, first time cheek pieces, not really know what was going on, and were around a couple of times and kind of not fancy it? So I suspect we will see him again, but he won't.
I think they've got to give him one more chance, haven't they? Really?
Well, yeah, but he's terrible.
It's not like
PR
he belted every fence out the way and then, he just literally didn't. I mean, if he doesn't fancy it one more time, then he's telling you, no, thank you. So
yeah, but for every loser there was a winner.
Absolutely, well done. Anyway, right, we better crack on with this week's show, if you like. And the first one ran on in the 12:15 on Friday at Ascot. This was a decent novice hurdle. There's nearly always decent novice hurdles at Ascot, I think. And as they turned into the home straight, it looked like there was about 3 or 4 with a chance. And by the time they got to the last, there were only 2 with a chance, as the Henderson horse, the Henderson horse ran a funny race. He's one to keep an eye on, actually. Ideal to board. He was given quite a kind ride, I felt. But the 2 of them ended up being, you never would have thought they were going to be 15 lengths clear as they jumped the last. The 2 involved were Beat the Bat and Welcome to Cartriers. But I thought the Paul Nicholls horse here, Welcome to Cartriers, is a horse it should be a formality to win a novice hurdle. But I think he might be a little bit better than that. This is an excellent first run in this country. I thought, like I say, the fact that 15 lengths clear too, probably a horse that will be winning races too. in Ideal the boards. I thought these two are quite useful novices, and especially the Nichols also. I think he'll definitely reverse the form if they met again.
Yeah, I agree with you. What we're seeing now with these big yards, Nichols, he introduced a good point-to-point winner at Wincanton on Thursday, and there was rumours that this one is equally as good as that won by half the track. This was a harder race, obviously, and I think Beat the Bats experience just prevailed. You're right.
It did, yeah, and it had the rail as well, didn't it? I think that probably won it the race.
Yeah, and I think Welcome to Cartridge, there's a really good maiden and a good novice hurdle at the Christmas meeting here, and I'll be very surprised if you don't see him come back for that, because he looked like he loved the track, powered on, and you're right. They jumped well. They put a lot of ground between themselves and the rest of the field. That was a good race. So he's a winner waiting to happen, isn't he? Big style.
Yeah. I just think he's a little bit better than a novice, a prospective novice hurdle winner as well. I think he's going to be a great one of them horses. Tamuris ended up, winning the race at Chepstow on his debut. You could see that was a good horse at the time, and I think this is going to be a graded horse going forwards.
Yeah. I agree. Well, my two are both at Ascot, and that phrase, we all hate, if the jockey could have it again, because anybody says that to you, but he can't have the ride again. It's finished. And I start the 3:15, the Jim Barry, and I think it's one we agree on, Judge, as a cast iron next time out. It's called Fred Arms and Dan Skelton. Now, I want to be too negative here, because it's a young lad who rode it, and it's one of them that I think they'll sit down, whoever his jockey coach, Mick Fitz or whoever, and go through this race and show him where, if he comes back to Ascot, there are certain places you can't go wide at. He could have sat on the rail. The horse came back on the bridle beautifully, but he was stuck out wide. He's run so much further than anything else in this race. I just think this is a massive eye-catching run. Hampered at the last as well, and then he got it going again. Boot Hill's very, very solid yardstick at this level. Triple Trade had recently won. It was a horse who came here in great form. This has got a very, very solid look about it. And I just think it was one of those rides. He's a young kid. He's a talented young rider. We're not trying to call him out or anything. It's just everything went wrong. And he's only got beat half a length. Massive eye catcher in a strong field.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree with you more. I actually wrote in my column today. I thought what he did wrong, particularly, he just came wide at that third last, and he ended up making a mistake at that particular. So he ended up making a mistake. So he lost, and he ended up going widest. So they definitely lost 2 or 3 lengths at that particular moment. And that just as they were quickening into the straight, which is where you do not want to be losing ground. And it's right at the key moment of the race. And he seemed to take it an eternity to make a decision whether he was going to really go for it or not. So because he made a mistake at the third last, he jumped beautifully at the second last, but I kind of thought he may have made another mistake. And coming down to the last, obviously the one in front might have won, might not have done, but he didn't really get stuck into him until over the last, and then he avoided the loose horse and then got stuck. He's got beat half a length. And you've got to think that little manoeuvre at the third last and waiting a little while to get into it. I think this also, he had been a bit of a weak finisher side, hadn't he, in his last couple of starts. But for me, there's no doubt about it. This horse is taken a while. He beat Orcan Risk, who ended up winning the Betfair Hurdle back at Newbury last year, and he cut himself that day. And he was off the track for quite a while. He was most progressive before it because he beat Haddon Des Obeaux, the good Gary Moore horse, that's rated about 150 now. He beat him in a handicap chase around Kempton. This horse he's chucked him, really. I know he's going to get a few pounds for this, but he'll definitely win a big handicap as long as the Irish don't come over.
I think that they will look at the big handicap at Kempton, King George, because he's got a win at that track. You're right, and I think an easier track will be even better for him. And you're right, he's going to go up 3, 4, whatever he goes up, he's worth 3 times on that.
Yeah,
he's given away.
For me, he's I know everyone will say the one that fell at the last, Saint Seagal, was the more. I think this sort. If you watch the race back again and just assume everything gets round, you would want to be on Fair Arms any day of the week.
Oh, every day of the week, yeah. Massive eye catcher.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And Judge, before we forget, what about Grey Dawn?
Yes, well done, thank you for that. Yeah, that was put up by you, mate, and that's not being funny.
Cheltenham.
Yeah, that was just shows you that day. That was a good novice chase for Exeter, wasn't it? Stay away, Fay winning. But then, like you say, this was definitely ridden that day with future targets in mind, wasn't it?
Well, I've done this. If anybody who backed it on Saturday, well done for following us in. But if you get the replay up and watch the ride, and again, and I did say at the time, I'm not having to go at Harry Skelton particularly.
No,
I said he changed his style
of jumps.
First day at school, and he had other tactics in mind. And what I did say was it was significantly better than it showed. Now you look when he gets a head up, and it's
he gets out and bangs out, makes all, didn't he?
Oh,
I love that
a lot more positive, yeah. So there you go. It is what it is, isn't it? It's about pinpointing when you think that might happen next time.
Absolutely. So we normally have 5 for the tracker, but we've got 4 because we both agree on that one. So that's so nice. I couldn't agree with you more. I thought it was probably the eye catch of the weekend myself.
My God, yeah, of the season.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, I want to be backing him in his next sort of couple of starts in big handicaps because he won't be going for a tin pot race. That'll be running in a valuable handicap, that horse. Right,
definitely.
So my final one was also at Ascot, but on the Friday. It was the 2 o'clock, won by a horse that we followed in a couple of times. A horse called Jaw Darling that's won this race for the last 2 times. And funny enough, Phlegmatic came second, and that placed in the race the year before as well. So it just shows you that the form does uphold sometimes from year on year. But for me, the eye catcher in this race was also called Copperhead. It had cheek pieces on for the first time. But he's been dropping right down in the weights. This horse won, I think it's a Reynoldstown he won round here a couple of years ago as a novice chaser. He's dropped to a mark of 120 here, and he looked like he was, well, I don't know, he looked like he was going to come 6th or 7th. He was well beat turning into the home straight. In the end, he got beat 11 lengths, but he nearly caught Phlegmatic for second. He was staying on really strongly over this 2-mile 5 trip. I think a step up to 3 miles. He could arguably go down a pound or 2 as well for this run. He's very well handicapped now. I'd like to see him back round here again because he does go well at Ascot. I think a slight, he wants a stiff track ideally over the 3 miles. I do think this horse is going to be winning, and it's for a stable that's going well this season, the Tizard Yard, and I can see him popping up in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
I think he'll go back over 3 miles, dear, and I think he'll come back here. He'll go to Sandown. He wants that stiff 3 on decent ground. You're right. He's becoming a very, very well handicapped horse, and he ran in a lot of top races. He's just in that slightly lower grade. He needs to bully this sort of class 2 field. Just a quickly word of warning to anybody who did back Your Darling, or if you didn't back Your Darling and thought, wow, what an amazing win. I can't wait to bet that next time out. Last year, it did the same. It is a hugely regressive horse. Be very careful now. If you missed out...
he's not one I'd want to be with at all for the rest of the season now. He's had his win.
Come to the wedding, do not attend the funeral.
No. He's an early season type as well, isn't he?
Yeah. He was massively impressive, but that was his day. So be careful with him. But yeah, like you, Copperhead, there's some really solid yardsticks in that race. I think it's decent form. And I love the way that Copperhead got outpaced and then quickened again late on, got his second
all he does is stay, isn't it?
Yeah. When he gets over 3 again.
It's hard to believe this horse was in the the old Hennessy, the Labrador or Coral, whatever it's called these days. Who knows what it's called? It was, rated. It was only 2 years ago. It was rated 148 that day. So he's down to 2 stone lower now. He's got to be a stage where he's got to win a race. Yeah,
I agree. Right, my last one, and again, it's kind of ride based. Was in the bumper, the 350 on Saturday back at Ascot. won by Regent Stroll, ridden by Harry Cobden, who I think rode this field to sleep. And he's riding a lot of fields to sleep, so it's no massive criticism of the other jockeys. He's doing it to a lot of people a lot of times. And a lot of senior jocks, Judge, need to wake up to the fact that he's stealing leads in a lot of races from them. And they just seem like to sit there, do nothing, allow him to get a lead at the start, or whether they think they're going to pick him up. And eventually, some of them are going to have to get together and realize they're going to have to follow him quicker. And there's a classic example of Cobden doing what he's doing day in, day out. Now, the word on the street in Lambourne was that Tradecraft is an exceptional bumper horse, certainly very well bred. He was extremely well backed on Friday night and Saturday morning. A lot of money came for the Nichols horse, and a lot of money came for the third horse, Wellington Arch. Now, that tells me that Paul Nichols, Nicky Henderson, and John Joe O'Neill stables all feel that they've got very, very strong bumper horses here. And this is often an exceptional bumper. So you want to keep an eye on all these. But the ride on Tradecraft was one of, I said this to you earlier, Judge, it was one of, with Nico where I sort of think he thinks that he's just going to push the button and zoom by. And it kind of didn't, well, it didn't pan out because he got beat 2 lengths. But if you watch the race again, Cobden slows it right down after he poaches a lead. And Nico is about 3-4 lengths back. And then Cobden comes around the turn and just gets stuck into the winner. And all of a sudden, Nico and John Joe Jr. are right back on the heels, 4 or 5 lengths back, trying to get momentum and get after it. And Tradecraft does stay on well, but the bird has flown and he gets beat 2 lengths. A few people, sort of Lambourne guys, were very, very disappointed. And I don't think people should be disappointed. I just think it didn't pan out and he got ridden to sleep, as did every other jockey in the race. So you got 3 very well-backed horses from 3 powerhouse yards. I think that means that this is a seriously strong race. And I wouldn't be giving up on Tradecraft's big reputation just yet. I'm going to give him another chance. I'm sure that Nico will be handier on him. And next time it should be Loss's Lent. So I suspect he'll come back here or he'll go to Kempton. They're the 2. I think there's a bumper on in the Christmas meeting. I'm fairly sure there is. That'd be the ideal place for him. That's where Henderson likes to run his 2, or at Newbury. So they'll be the 3 tracks where we'll see him. Hopefully it's a strong field and we get a decent price, yeah. But Tradecraft, next time out, if you were on Saturday, this is a horse I think we'll get our money back and more besides. And it was a classic example of what we're seeing day in, day out. Cobden is riding fields to sleep.
Yeah, definitely. The third in that looks like I think he's a nice type as well. The third in that already won a bumper and was running under a penalty, and there've been winners behind him in his bumper, Wellington Arch, and he was particularly. I think he was probably given the poorest ride out of the lot because he was last, and as he made his ground up just as they came into the home bend. Yeah, and then that's when Cobden pressed. That's when he'd slowed it up. So obviously then he was quickening into a quickening pace. And he ended up weakening late on, and he had the penalty. I think the 3 of them are all half-decent bumper horses.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's probably more class to be had with the first 2, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Wellington Arch doesn't win another bumper as well. Probably in the right grade, but I definitely would want to be with the second next time if all 3 met again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. A very, very strong race.
Right, so got some decent little marks for their cards again this week, and roll on to the fighting 5th at Newcastle at the end of the week. Let's hope that one runs better. Constitution Hill in Shishkin. Let's hope that doesn't whip round at the start.
Well, Nico on Friday night will probably be waking up in a cold sweat about 5 times. He won't want 2 Saturdays like that, will he? I'm sure Constitution Hill's not going to be doing any antics. I bet the horse is raring to get going.
I was going to say the one thing I can also say about this is like the Shishkin thing. The amount of people that are expecting to get their money back because that got beat. I mean, you just got to take it. You can't really.
The rules.
It's like you've either got to say it's a runner and then have a rule for the bookmakers. I mean, on a race like that, if you're giving your money back on a horse that's odds on, and then obviously you're paying out on the winner, I mean, you're going to do your cobblers, aren't you? So, I mean, it sort of does frustrate me sometimes. If you did get your money back, you've got to count yourself lucky, aren't you, really? You've got to accept when you lose sometimes.
And what's never said is that the people who back the winner deserve to get full payout. Not a whole
that's right.
huge rule for because the bookmakers paid out. Yeah, it was under rules. Hey, I've been in that. I was in the lucky situation of being on Pic de Ré on Saturday. Many times I've been in the situation of the one that whips round at the start.
You don't
ask for your money back. They are under orders.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had one at Royal Ascot where they didn't even take the hood off. This was a couple of years ago. They come out the stalls, the hood's still on the horse. So I mean. That's why it didn't come out the stalls. You couldn't see where it's going. So it just shows you it's the rules of racing. You know, I know it's a bad look sometimes, but the other alternative is if you know there's got to be a new rule perhaps brought in when they deem if it doesn't go past the start, it's a non-runner. So then that way at least there's a rule for the bookmakers know where they are. But I mean, we do slag the bookmakers off quite a lot, and these are the only sort of things I'm afraid I don't actually agree with the punters. I wouldn't expect to refund myself.
No, and where do you bring that in? I know I challenged somebody on this yesterday who said it should have been a non-runner. So I said, what about a horse that gets to the start then, and the jockey just and it plays up, and he can't get it to join the others? But it's what do you do there? How far back do you want to start doing these? What do you have to do to generate your non-runner? Does it have to, like you say, does it have to be stood with the others? Or does it have to actually get past the guy? And what about the horses that end up starting, but they're 50 lengths back and the jockey just eventually the horse starts, but they're not in the race, are they? Do you give the money back for them as well?
Well, this is it, you know. I mean, I think it was one. I think Tom Cannon there. It was a 4-horse novice chase, and it whipped round at the start and threw him off, if you remember. And then the tapes went up, and he was off the horse. So you know that was probably arguably more a non-runner than the other one. It's just one of those things sometimes. But the amount of times you sort of hear it. I mean, I know it's a concession that you know the bookmakers do, but the sort of the expectation you're going to get your money back is the bit you think, what, really? I wouldn't. So
yeah. If you get it back, treat it as a big bonus and enjoy it.
Exactly. Yes, take it and run.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, mate. It's been a good week.
Yeah. And we, like you say, we've got some big racing this weekend and lots of winners to bet.
Absolutely. And what do we say at the end of the show?
Be lucky.
Be lucky.
Have a great week.